Agriculture accounts for a significant portion of the economy in most African countries. It takes a leading role in the economy as it comprises enormous potential in the sector. The continent's huge potential for agricultural development renders an opportunity to draw its economic base. Agriculture would enable the continent to eliminate food insecurity and environmental degradation. Though Africa comprises huge potential on agriculture, it is yet striving to ensure food security. The Sustainable Development Goals formulated by the African Union are making a pioneer move to eradicate poverty in all its forms. Eliminating hunger and ensuring citizens' good health and well being are also one of the preliminary plans coined by the member states of Africa. Experts claim that although the endeavor being made by the member countries in areas of reducing poverty in the continent is moving forward, still Africa needs to go a long way to achieve the required target in this regard.
To assess how we are implementing our Agenda 2063 and constitute a good platform to coordinate our effort ambitiously toward achieving our common goal of transforming our continent through a sustainable agricultural transformation for inclusive growth and shared prosperity.
The pertaining bodies in the sector also reiterate that much is yet remaining in terms of strengthening agricultural sector in the continent and examining the besetting problems impeding the growth of the states. A number of scenarios are attributable for the incompetent outcome shown in the sector.
To me, the major challenge is lack of political will, determination and commitment, and not also having appropriate policies and strategies to reduce poverty in Africa.
Some countries in Africa are moving forward, registering progress in agricultural sector, especially in reducing poverty. They are also trying to overcome prevailing hindrances affecting the growth of the sector. Countries like Ghana and Ethiopia are claimed to be showing tremendous improvement in depleting the severe consequences that the environmental degradation could bring upon their society.
Some countries are achieving, impressive poverty reduction in Africa, including Ethiopia, Ghana, Rwanda. But for most African countries, this goal is not achieved, which is also, indicated in Millennium Development Goals.
African countries should also strive towards ensuring environmental sustainability so as to curb the detrimental conditions hanging the continent. Striving for green economy was the prominent issue put in place to curb the barriers hampering the development of the continent. The experts and dignitaries have shown steadfast courage to work on the sector for sustainable growth of Africa.
Most African countries, agriculture is the dominant sector, not just in terms of the size in GDP, but more importantly in the size of the labor force that works in the agriculture sector. On average, you have over 70% of the rural of labor working in the agriculture sector. And so as we drive towards industrialization, the sector that will lead us to that industrialization has to be agriculture. And so that is why we need to start from agriculture, increase productivity of the agriculture sector, increase production, which will provide the raw materials that we are going to use for agro-industry.
The experts have exclaimed that emphasis should be given for enhancing green economy to maximize agricultural production. The adoption of new technologies and capacity building are among the components that would help to augment the agricultural sector. In so doing, the respective countries would exterminate the unfavorable situation of poverty through ensuring food security.
I started out telling you that African farmers can only be transformed by African countries. So what we do is to support countries who have the capacity they need to be able to support farmers to transform.
The agriculture sector is very much important to reduce, poverty in Africa. Why? Because if you see, around 70% of the labor in Africa is on the agriculture, plus the agriculture sector contributes 30% of GDP of most African countries. So African countries must invest on the agriculture sector to reduce poverty, as also rightly indicated in CARIC.
The Green Revolution, which most African countries, including Ethiopia, are upholding, are aiming to increase productivity as a result of making use of scientific applications in the area. The cause is changing field of agriculture for an improved livelihood of the society in the continent through utilizing better agricultural machineries and fertilizers, enhancing productivity.
And right now, we've mostly focused on technology generation, right? The kind of technologies that are needed in specific environments in different countries, so that they can be able to farmers can be able to increase yields, whether it is improved fertilizers, whether it is, in this case, you're actually talking about blended fertilizers, whether it is improved seed systems, and also building systems so that farmers can actually have seeds and fertilizers close to where they are living. So we've really focused on generating technologies for specific environments in the continent, but also for building, we've focused on building delivery channels and delivery systems by supporting private sector so that they can be able to deliver to farmers sustainably.
As agriculture is a foundation for the livelihood of African countries, the backbone for the economy, the sector has been given due attention. Currently, both agriculture and industry sectors in Africa are moving forward in a collaborative way. The sectors are supportive of one another, for the industrial sector makes use of plethora of agricultural inputs.
The agriculture, there must be linkage, both backward and forward linkage between the agriculture sector and the industrialization sector. What does it mean? The agriculture sector must provide inputs to the industry, and also the industry must fit to the agriculture sector by producing fertilizers and the needed technology to develop the agriculture sector. Then you see the agriculture sector will be very competitive, the productivity will enhance, it will, the value additions for our agriculture products will increase.
Today, most African countries are moving forward in supporting pertinent institutions that are engaged in the agricultural sector. The institutions are enormously working to maximize productivity through enabling the active players in agriculture for capacity building and use of new technology.
We've built a strong knowledge base across all the countries we're working in, and this partnership is to really work to take that knowledge base, whether it is better seeds, better fertilizers, and the models that can deliver them to farmers. So it's a foundation, and we have a foundation that we can now use to work with countries to deliver agricultural transformation to farmers.
Advancement in technology in the agricultural sector would boost the economy of the continent, resulting in better agricultural productivity and thereby ensuring food security. The governments are earnestly working towards the development of agricultural efficiency in collaboration with the stakeholders and farmers who are constantly working for a better future.
The results are positive. One of the indicators that we are tracking in the biannual review report around this question of transformation is the increase in agricultural productivity, because the heads of state in the Malabo Declaration committed to doubling agricultural productivity. And the results are indicating that 26 countries between 2015 and 2017 were on track, and they grew by at least 6% per annum over a 2-year period. So 26% were able to meet the CAADP target, which is the 6% annual growth. So we are encouraged by the findings that as countries are committing more to the CAADP agenda, we are also seeing growth happening in the agriculture sector.
The pertinent experts and political actors in Africa have also pledged to commit themselves to rather increase productivity and tackle the environmental problems like the armyworm, which is impeding the progress in agricultural sector in some parts of the continent. The elites have shown earnest interest to the full enforcement of the concerned bodies in order to achieve more productivity.
We told the partners to see how we can have a continental type of coordination to address this issue of fall armyworm. It's a new infestation. There's not much scientific information about it, but FAO is doing a lot of progress, and we are trying to really, take it really at the eye level.
The Sustainable Development Goals are the framework for tackling the complex challenge we face between now and 2030. Since the challenges are basically intertwined and interconnected, malnutrition, water access, and climate change have a tremendous impact on everyone. The agricultural sector offers a wide range of solutions to turn the challenge into opportunities if exploited properly. Small-scale farms that feed families and rural economies, and the productive and more efficient big farms have become a common thread in the world.
The agriculture sector for socio-economic development, which means there must be appropriate policies and strategies to develop the agriculture sector. If you see in most African countries, 75% of the agriculture is conducted by small agriculture holder. That means African government policy must target a small agriculture holder. And the policy must be not only pro-rural, it must be pro-poor. If you see, most people in the agriculture sector are very poor. So the strategy must focus not only on pro-rural, it must be pro-poor. Not only that, there must be investment in science and technology to develop the agriculture sector.
The development goals plans to reduce and eliminate hunger and malnutrition by 2030. However, the full range of the goals wouldn't be able to be recovered without rapid progress in the agricultural sector. The battle to end poverty should principally consider the rural population as the majority live there. To this end, a strong political will is required.
The agriculture sector is the mainstay of most African countries. And if we need socio-economic development and poverty reduction in Africa, governments must focus on the agriculture sector. In that regard, African countries must commit. That's why I said, to develop the agriculture sector, political will, commitment, and determination is important, backed by policies.
Agricultural-led industrialization is a basic precept that takes nations whose economy is based on agriculture forward. The agro-industries will have the opportunity to flourish as agriculture expands in the continent.
As agro-industries continue to develop, they will siphon the labor out of the rural areas to serve in industry, as well as the associated services that come with industrialization. But the starting point has to be improving agricultural productivity as a basic issue that we have to start with.
The access to have clean water and sanitation is another goal that is planned to be achieved by the African countries. The plan would inevitably be achieved through expanding and strengthening the markets for agricultural products and thereby providing employment opportunities for the youth of the nations.
The STC meeting offers an opportunity for policymakers and technical experts to revisit our developmental commitment, learn from the past, and propose sound technical options and policy action towards transforming our continent for the benefit of our people, especially the youth.
Striving for clean energy is also the other component of the development goals the continent is making all the possible efforts to achieve. The effort to make the industrial zones free of the carbon effect is given a central focus in achieving environmental sustainability. The endeavor to work on climate change should become the responsibility of every citizen.
It was designed as an institution that would support other institutions that actually allow sustainability to be built, especially in the area of technology.
With regard to environmental sustainability, there has been a follow-up in relation to the Paris Agreement, in relation to Sustainable Development Goal commitment, and most importantly about the commitment in relation to Agenda 2063, which also calls for member countries to adopt and promote environment-related issues in Africa.
Agriculture plays a central role in improving the livelihood of many rural citizens. It is of paramount importance due to its prime interconnection with almost all aspects of the Sustainable Development Goals. Therefore, achieving sustainable growth in the rural sector is given a fundamental place to tackle all forms of inequalities.
One of the indicators that we are tracking is the commitment by the heads of state to spend at least 10% of the public expenditure on agriculture. The report shows that as of this year, between 2015 and 2017, only 7 countries out of the 43 that reported, only 7 have been able to spend at least 10% of their public expenditure on agriculture.
To achieve the ambitious Sustainable Development Goals and make the world a better place, the pertinent stakeholders should make incessant effort towards realizing the goals to ensure better life as well as preserving a safe environment. It's emphasized that there should be a strong institutional framework in order to implement the plans.
One of the things we are doing is to partner with critical institutions around the continent that are working on supporting countries to really help define what those solutions are. We have a partnership with CIMMYT, CABI, ICIPE, and looking at what are the kind of solutions will we be taking to people at country level. Again, different countries are different levels.
Though Africa comprises 60% of the arable land, the continent still imports much of the food items from abroad. The continent also constitutes sufficient water, which could be utilized for various purposes.
And therefore, my response is it has to do with what we are doing to support the continent to drive transformation across the whole array of agriculture, rural development, water, land, and environment.
African agriculture is being recognized as engine for the continent's relentless wars and overall growth. Agriculture and business account for about half of the continent's economic activities. The agriculture and food market is worth $310 billion and has the opportunity to grow up to $1 trillion by 2030. It is undeniable that an efficient sector could increase income, boost jobs, and reduce environmental degradation.
We'll continue to be responsive and provide the required support and technical backup in the journey of a sustainable agricultural transformation for job creation for our youth and women and increase income.
African countries like Ethiopia are striding forward in economic progress, making the development goals effectual. Ethiopia and Ghana are attributable for making a spectacular move in agricultural sector, thereby achieving trade and industry advancement with sustainable growth.
Ethiopia is fully committed to the Common African Agricultural Development Policy, CAADP. You see, not only 10%, even the budgetary contribution to the agriculture sector is more than 10%. So Ethiopia is one of the countries that exceeded, its commitment in relation to CAADP, especially by, the government is committed to develop the agriculture sector. You see the consistent growth of the agriculture sector, and also trying to link the agriculture sector. The government is working with industrialization. This is highly appreciated, especially the government's commitment to CAADP requirements. That is, budgetary contribution, 10% budgetary contribution to the agriculture sector. In Ethiopia, it exceeds. Since 2010, it was around more than 20%.
Transforming Africa's agriculture is one of the indispensable efforts to be done by the stakeholders. The sector should be given prime attention as a significant economic base in the continent. Smallholder farmers should also be encouraged and given various support and incentives so that they will be able to increase productivity. In so doing, they would play a critical role in addressing the challenge of food security, poverty, and climate change threatening the continent.